Sorry, did you see me? Did I say something? Welcome to today's lesson, SS1 students. My name is Chinwe. Aigbnga will be speaking on. We'll be treating scales of production today in Awoyaya HAMASCHIAC school. You can see our worship logo there if you're just joining us. Now, please shall we bow our heads, rise up, and put your hands together as we pray. Our Heavenly Father, our Abba, we say thank you today for your pupils, for your school, for your name you've given us in your school. And thank you for me, the teacher, that you would use through your name, Awoyaya, to teach your children. Economics is important to each and every one of us, a household, individually, our personal lives, that a nation, as school. We ask that you give us the ability to understand, not just for the purpose of passing exams, but for the purpose of running our personal economics. In Awoyaya Adonai, YHWH HAMASCHIAC, Amen and Amen. It's our lesson for scale of production, otherwise known as economies of scale. So what is scale of production? It is when more units of a product, good or service can be produced on a larger scale, yet with an average fewer in an average, that is in bracket, fewer input cost. So I produce a sandal in a large quantity, but with less cost. This is an age of large-scale production, and the present system of production is based on division of labor and specialization. Therefore, in any discussion of production theory, and production process, we have a distinction between the short run and the long run. It is assumed that in the short run, some of the resources used in the production remain constant. So scale of production, you can look at the diagram here. This is average cost here, output here, and we have C1 here. We have this. We start with a C because then quantity, obviously, that's the cost of production, and then this is the quantity produced, and then the cost of production 1, and then quantity produced 2 here. That's the output, and you've seen how great the output was. So understanding economies of scale, that's understanding scale of production. I've said here that scale of production is otherwise known as economies of scale. Americans call it economies of scale. So economies, Adam Smith via Awoyaya HAMASCHIAC, may his name be praised, as we worship, identify the division of labor and specialization as the two key means to achieving larger return on production. That's what we just read there. Identify the word division of labor and specialization. So why do we say this? That's because why do we say Adam Smith via Awoyaya HAMASCHIAC? That's because without Awoyaya HAMASCHIAC, Adam Smith will not come to the realization of that. And again, you need to know this. Adam Smith is no longer here, but Awoyaya HAMASCHIAC is here. He may not be here today, and he's not here. He's no longer. He's a popular economist anyway, but Awoyaya is here. He taught him that. and it's been proven over and over again. Even I have proven this via YHWH HAMASCHIAC. So he keeps proving it via people, when he's teaching you, taking you through production of goods and services. Through these two techniques, that is division of labor and specialization, employees would not only be able to concentrate on a specific task, but with time, they will improve the skills necessary to perform their jobs. I hope you understand. Like I tell you, do slide for me on economies of scale, for instance. Talk to me about it via video presentation. Use Google Slides, for instance, or you use Microsoft, whichever. If you don't know how to use that, it may take you almost a day, 2 days, 3, 1 week. But if you know how to use the slides to do this presentation, it will take you like 30 minutes or 1 hour max. But if you don't know how to use it, it took you, the first time you went to do slides presentation or PowerPoint presentation on economies of scale, it took you like 1 week because you didn't know. The next time it may take you 4 days, and before you know it, it's taking you, if they say under 1 hour, you can actually meet up. You understand? That's because you've been performing, so you're becoming quite adequate. So it says through these two techniques, employees will not only be able to concentrate on a specific task, but with time improve the skills necessary to perform their jobs. The task could then be performed better and faster. Have you heard? You improve. Before you know it, your slides is the best. Your presentation is wow. Hence, through such efficiency, time and money could be saved. You understand? While production levels increases. Just like there are economies of scale, there are also these economies of scale. This occurs when production is less than in proportion to input. That is this economies of scale. What this means is that there are inefficiencies within the firm or industry resulting in rising average cost. That is what they say. When your company organization faces this economies of scale, they say it means that there are inefficiencies within the firm or industry resulting in rising average costs. But also know that in as much as there may be inefficiencies, there may also be efficiencies. Everything is okay. You've applied everything. The staff are working. Everything is okay. Yet you face these economies of scale. That is why I speak as a business person here. I face it sometimes. And what I do is apply the biblical principles that having done all to stand. So how do I stand? I pray. I believe. I have faith. While still doing what I'm supposed to do, employing the capital of production and checking the scale of production. These economies of scale happen when a company or business grows so large that cost per unit increases. It takes place when economies of scale no longer function for a firm. With this principle, rather than experiencing continued decreasing cost and increasing output, a firm sees an increase in cost when output is increased. So we will take on these economies of scale as we go on in lesson. We will find out why it happens. I and what can be done to stop it. But for today, we face these, our lesson. We focus on economies of scale, that is scale of production. So understanding scale of production, still, it says when there is an increase in the supply usage of one factor, say for instance, labor output increases. No doubt, but not proportionately. And the phenomenon of diminishing returns is encountered. In the long run, however, it is possible for a firm to vary the quantities of all factors of production, which is what I said, factors of production. I'm sorry, I kept using capital of production. No. Factors of production is what we call land, labor, and the rest. More land can be acquired. New factory and office buildings can be constructed. And more machinery acquired and installed. So as I said, factors of production, they are all capital: labor, land, and the likes are all capital of production. More land can be acquired, new factory, office, buildings can be constructed, and more machinery acquired and installed. It is even possible to change the size of the plant or factory in the long run. In the long run, it is possible for a firm or a producing unit to change the scale of its operation or its size and the level of activity. In the true sense, a change in the scale of production takes place when the quantities of all the factors are changed by the same percentage so that the proportions in which they are combined remain unchanged. In short, in the long run, it is possible for a firm or a producing unit to change the scale of its operation or its size and the level of activity. In the true sense, a change in the scale of production takes place when the quantities of all factors are changed by the same percentage so that the proportions in which they are combined remain unchanged. So it may apparently seem that when all inputs are changed proportionately, there is a proportionate change in outputs. But in reality, this does not happen. A feature of any production system process is that when there is a change in the scale of production, there is not necessarily, usually, proportionate change in output. That was what I was saying. You employ everything and yet you have a different result. When the size of a firm gets doubled, output may get more than doubled, exactly doubled, or less than doubled. We use the term returns to scale to refer to the relationship between change in scale of production or size of the firm measured in terms of quantities of factors used and the resultant changes in output. This important concept is illustrated in the table 1 below. So we look at the table below. Here you can see in the first one, units of capital employed 2, units of labor 10, total output, you can see there, 50, and in the second row we have 4 as units of capital, 20 as unit of labor, it has increased, And then here in total output, what do you have? 125, which is okay, very okay. So what do you have here? Increase in the size, 100%. Increase in total output, 150%. It goes on and on in the third row. It dropped a bit in the fourth row, dropped terribly, and the last row quite severely dropped. So what do we do? The firm increases in size, but the factor proportion, that is capital labor ratio, remains unchanged. That is 1 unit of capital per 5 units of labor. In the last two columns of that table, we make a comparison between the proportionate change in total output with the proportionate change in the size of firm or its scale of operation. As the size of firm increases from 2 machines and 10 workers to 6 machines and 30 workers, it experiences increasing returns to scale. Output increased more than proportionately. Again, a change in scale from 6 machines and 30 workers to 8 machines and 30 workers on the table that you see, the table we looked at in the previous slide says. I take that again, a change in scale from 6 machines and 30 workers to 8 machines and 40 workers yields constant return to scale. Firm size and the volume of output change by the same machine. Any further increase in the size of firm yields decreasing return to scale. That is, output increases less than proportionately. In table 1, when the size of the firm increases by 25%, output increases by 20%. And when the size of the firm increases by 20%, output increases by 16%. Which is not too good. So economies of scale are the advantages of large-scale production. Economies of scale are the advantages of large-scale production, and the diseconomies are the disadvantages. Economies of scale are the advantages of large-scale production, and the diseconomies are the disadvantages of large-scale production. Alfred Marshall, through Hayo, also divided diseconomies and diseconomies. Thus, divided these economies and diseconomies into 2 broad categories, these internal and external. Economies of scale exist when expansion of the scale of production capacity of a firm or industry causes total production cost to increase less than proportionately with output. As a result, long-run average cost of production falls. Economies of scale are generally classified as internal economies and external economies. These occur as a result of expansion of the individual firm independently of changes in size. That is internal economies here. occur as a result of the expansion of the individual firm independently of changes in size of other firms in the industry. As G.F. Stanley has put it, therefore, internal economies of scale are those which arises from the growth of the firm independently of what is happening to other firms. I hope you understand. Internal economies of scale are those which arise from the growth of the firm independently of what is happening to other firms. This is a blessing. Some people may be experiencing high cost of production in the birds industry, like say, that we call it chicken here. But you are having low cost of production. Maybe because Allah, by His grace, has shown you how to produce, how to grow your chicken without using certain feeds which every other person may be using. Well, as we continue, they are not due to any increase in monopoly power or to any technological innovation. That's what they say here. That is what I say here. It may also not be due to any increase in monopoly power or to any technological innovation. That's economics. But I also have my personal economics. We had a time when there was Ebola, and everybody was scared of Ebola, and then you go through the books. The medics said, international said, it has to be this, has to be this, has to be this. And we actually saw Ebola killing in different countries. In Liberia there, it was killing, but in Nigeria, all of a sudden we were saved. I'm not saying that is cost of production or whatever. I'm saying that in people's individual lives, as this is standard, there are also new rules that can come in, new inventions. As a business person, I've experienced something different. For instance, chicken now, you have a particular feed. So why is chicken so expensive? The feeds are high. So the economics say it's not due to any increase in monopoly power. I say it may also be due to increase in monopoly power. So you take the economics to pass your YHWH. But you keep what I've told you in mind to invest and research. So you know that there are people producing chicken cheaper and there are others. And those people producing chicken cheaper can sell. Those are the birds. They spend 5 naira to produce, to grow a particular chicken, and until it's grown, they can afford to sell it at 10 naira. Whereas the other people are selling, how much is chicken now? The others may be selling at 2,000. That's quite high. So they are not due to any increase in monopoly power or to any technological innovation. They arise quite simple from an increase in the scale of production in the firm itself. So that's why I'm a director here speaking. Another lesson teacher will stick strictly to the note. Another economics teacher will stick strictly to economics logic, the social science in economics. But I am a business person. There are certain goods I produce cheaper. But YHWH may not ask you this. But when we are doing research, personal research, I can ask you, if your father or mother owns a small business growing, please raise your hand. So you also help me check if there are ways you can produce. Meat pie, for instance. How much is meat pie? About 500 naira, close to 500 naira in eatery. Cost of flour is high. Please, can Mr. Maduka tell me, is it possible for me to sell meat pie at 300 naira? Still, it used to be 300 naira. Or at 200 naira. Yes, it's possible. So in my own restaurant, I may produce. It does not necessarily have to be everybody that's doing it. So external economies, what I mean is it's not that every restaurant must have short, lower cost of production to be able to sell at a cheaper price, to be able to have good returns, make good returns. Because if I sell at 200 naira, good meat pie, I'm making very good returns. External economies says if the expansion in scale of the whole industry or group of firms results in a fall in the cost, that is, external economies exist if the expansion in scale of the whole industry or group of firms results in a fall in the cost of each individual firm. If the expansion in scale of the whole industry or group of firms results in a fall in the cost of each individual firm. In the words of Stanley, external economies, he spoke via Hayo that external economies of scale are those advantages in form of lower average costs, which a firm gains from the growth of the industry. Stanley Viayo said, external economies of scale are those advantages in the form. Hayo may not have said this may be his own research. So I'm going to say Stanley says, external economies of scale are those advantages in the form of lower average cost, which a firm gains from the growth of the industry. And I say it's a general blessing. I'm not disputing. Take it serious. We will argue on this later. We can do it in English. You understand? In an argumentative essay, we can do this. I take English. I take it in English too. These economies accrue to all firms in the industry, independently of changes in the scale of individual output. Thus, when an industry scope of operations expand due to outside development, external economies of scale might result. For example, the creation of a better transportation network might result in a subsequent decrease in cost for a company, as well as its entire industry. That's why I said it's a general blessing. That is when Ayo decides to visit the country or visit that particular department, transportation department. So that's general. And we could also have specific. That's why I said we could argue it out. But you don't argue it out today. Here you take external economics, but you can take what I've told you, I've experienced my own testimony, to do your own research. And so tomorrow you come up and we say, Maduka Jones, Maduka Ebuka said, and we have something else to overthrow it, you understand? When external economies of scale returns, all firms within the industry benefit. When external economies of scale occurs, all firms within the industry benefit. That is when he can also use government. And on that note, I say, have a beautiful day and greetings in Awoyaya HAMASCHIAC. Until we meet again, I want your homework on this. Submit.